Hashem.
Here we go. Now we are learning, this week is a double Torah portion, Matos Umase. The word Matot means the tribes. The word Matot also means a staff. Remember, we learned last week, that speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that God showed to Jeremiah, the prophet, a staff of almonds and representing the 21 days for these 3 weeks, the staff of almonds. And God said, I'm going to turn the bitterness of the almonds, like almonds are in the beginning, to sweetness. And the thing of the staff is that we need strength, power, defiance, joy, happiness, assertiveness. That's the staff. So staff is a staff of shows of rulership. Okay, but the word matot also means, simple meaning, what it means this way is matot is the tribes of the Jewish people. They're called matot. Matot and Masai. Okay, matot begins with the laws of vows and other things. It also talks about the war that the Jewish people made with Midian, great length, Midian. That's the first portion. And the second portion talks about the journeys, the 42 journeys that the Jews made in the desert. Right? That's what we're learning about in Likutei Torah. Here we go. From the topics of Miyuchadim, the special topics of this Shabbat. This is a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1991. From among the unique topics we're talking about here, Shabo Mesaimim, that we finished the book of Numbers. These are the last 2 chapters of the book of Numbers. Sefer Revi, the 4th book of the Torah. Shesimu Mehave Gam Sium Kol Torah, which this really finishes the whole Torah. Once again, I thought there were 5 books of Moses. Why does he say this finishes the whole Torah? Because the 5th book of the Torah, Dvarim, it's different from the first 4 books. The first 4 books of the Torah, this is what God told to Moses to give up. Listen, the first book of the Torah is the history of the Jews. That was also given to God, but it was given to God and to Moses also. But that was given before Mount Torah, before the Torah was given. Then the next 3 books, those are God speaking to Moses and telling Moses what to say to the Jewish people. And it's written in story form. God spoke to Moses and told him, say this. God spoke to Moses, Vayadaber Hashem al Moshe lemor, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe lemor. God spoke to Moses, and this is what he told him. The 5th book of the Torah, it doesn't say God spoke to Moses. It's all Moses speaking. Moses is repeating the Torah to the Jewish people. He adds on a lot of commandments. Okay, but everyone knows that it's not really Moses speaking. It's God speaking through Moses, but it doesn't say those words that God is speaking through Moses. So therefore, the mainstay of the Torah is the first 4 books. Story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then how the Jews went into Egypt, and then how they got out of Egypt, and they got the Torah, and they built the tabernacle, and they wandered in this and got the rest of the Torah. They got the rest of the commandments. And then right before they went into the land of Israel, Moses started the 5th book of the Torah. But these 4 books of the Torah, that's really the finishing of the Torah, the 4 books of the Sefer Torah, Shari Sefer Chamishi, because the 5th book of the Torah, Deuteronomy, this is Mishnah Torah. It's a repetition of the Torah. Shechozer, it just repeats the Kolel and includes in itself the 4 books which are before it. But Achar Zen, after this, Machrizim, we yell out, Chazak, Chazak, Venitchazek. Okay. Every time we finish we finish reading in the Torah, we finish one whole book. So the last 3 words or 4 words are read really loud. And everyone yells out in the congregation, Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. Be strong, and we will be strengthened. We'll strengthen ourselves. 3 times. Be strong, and we will be and be strengthened. V'nitchazek. When you finish the book of Genesis, so they finish the words. Here we go. Finish the words in Genesis. You finish, and it says, "How does it finish?" Here we go. Here, it ends up that all the Jews are in Egypt, and it says, "Vayamos Moshe Yosef ben me'ah v'asar shanim v'yechantu oso v'yasim v'yisem Aaron b'Mitzrayim," and everyone yells out, "Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek." Right, and at the end of the book of Exodus, it's the same thing. The last 3 words or 2 words they yell out. The one who reads out loud, "Kol Beis Yisrael b'chol masehem chazak chazak v'nitchazek." And also this coming Shabbat, you will be in synagogue, and they'll finish reading the book of Bamidbar, and they will say, Al Yarden Yerechos, Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. Okay, now the Rebbe is going to really explain the implications of this word, these 3 words, Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. We're finishing a book of the Torah. Be strong, and strengthen yourself. In other words, Judaism demands that we be strong. We cannot just rely on God and let him do everything. We have to be strong. Let's see. How are we supposed to be strong? When are we supposed to be strong? Well, this is a good question. Sheyesh bo ha'ilui v'shlemos of chazaka. But 3 times it's a chazaka. We talked about this before. Anytime in Judaism there's this law of what's called a chazaka. Chazaka means a certainty, a supposition that a thing is certain, a certainty. If you do something 3 times in a row, a good thing, you do a good thing 3 times in a row, then that's called a chazaka. In other words, it's like a certainty that you're going to do it again. And even sometimes, and it's even an obligation that you should do it another time. It's called a chazaka. A chazaka means if you do something 3 times, then that's considered to be as though it's permanent. 3 times is a chazaka. So we're saying 3 times being strong. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek. That's called a chazaka. The word itself is chazaka. It means to be strong. But it means 3 times means it's firm, it's certain, so to speak, it's eternal. 3 times. But we have to understand the kesher. What's the connection between the completion of the 4th book of the Torah to l'tochno shel zman of this time we're in? What time are we in? The 3 weeks of mourning. Shel olam esayim, that we always finish this book of Numbers b'shabbatot on one of the Shabbats, which are in the 3 weeks of Bein HaMetzarim, between the tragedies. The tragedies are the 17th day of Tammuz, when the Romans broke into the temple, and the Tisha B'Av, when both temples were destroyed. Bakama Shanim, there's 3 weeks interval. Bakama Shanim, in many years, like in this year on Shabbat, the first Shabbat of the 9 days of the 9 days, not this year, we don't do this year. 9 days are the last 9 days of these 3 weeks. And this year it doesn't come out. The year that the Rebbe is speaking, it did come out that way. Okay. L'cheor, at first glance, this time of the 3 weeks, and especially the last 9 days, this is being weak for Kedusha. It's very not good days of holiness. You don't get married, there's no marriage. It's like a bad luck, these 3 weeks. Exactly the opposite of being strong, being powerful, being certain. Well, we don't want these terrible times to be strong and certain. L'chaor, at first glance, they shlomer, we can say shehi anotenet. We can say no, exactly the opposite. It's self-understood. Since this time is connected with mavar masav shal chalishu, since these 3 weeks are a time of weakness and bad luck for the Jewish people, therefore mudgash yoter, therefore is stressed more the necessity, atzorich, the necessity, and another word for necessity. I think another word for necessity, the hechrach, and absolute necessity. Okay, that we have to be strong because these are weak times. So don't let it get you down. Don't let the situation overcome you. The negative situation. You have to be strong despite what's all around us. We have to be the source of strength. Not that we receive strength from our surroundings and our this. Even more in the worst times, that's when we really have to be strong. That's one answer. Aval Yoter Nira, but says the Rebbe, seems to me more logical to say Shachizuk Atzmo, that the strength itself is connected with Tochno Shalzman. Not that you have to be strong in spite of the time, but the time itself, these 3 weeks, that should give us strength. And not that we should be strong because we have to oppose the time that we're in. That we have to defy the time. That's also true. But the Rebbe said, I think that maybe there's a little more positive answer over here. On this Shabbat, the last Shabbat, when we finish one of the books of the Torah, it's called Shabbat Chazak. It's called Shabbat Chazak, a Shabbat where we say Chazak Chazak. And when we finish a book of the Torah, we say these 3 words. Hainu, if so, it comes out that the whole content, the title of this Shabbat in these 3 weeks, in this year, even when the Rebbe was speaking, it fell in the last 9 days, which those are the worst. Nevertheless, this Shabbat should give us strength. There's something here that should encourage us. Not just despite the evil and despite the bad, we should be strong. No, that somehow or other, these times should strengthen us. We'll see how. The Ma'asenu v'Avodatenu b'kiyum Torah mitzvahs, it should strengthen our service in God and doing Torah and the commandments, which that's the whole point of the Torah. Yuvamek, and we can understand this by preceding what it says, the connection of chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. This idea, these 3 words that we say when we finish reading a book of the Torah, be strong, and strengthen yourself. The Tochan, a parsha shebo mesayim hasefer. Let's connect it to what we're the last portion that we're reading over here, which we said matos v'maseh, parshas matot and maseh. Shebazeh, and this is included the idea of chozek, the strength of matot, and the strength of maseh, and the strength when you join them two together. Oh, so here we have 3 times, be strong, be strong, be strong. The word matot, that's the name of the first of the 2 portions we read this week. The word matot implies strength. The word maseh, which means journeys, also implies strength. We'll see how. And joining them together, that's a 3rd type of strength. How so? Let's see. Okay, let me just say, this idea of being strong is in a way the whole essence of Judaism, because God made it that the Jews are the smallest of all the nations, and they have a very powerful message, which is the opposite of nature, to give to the world. So there's going to be a lot of opposition. So the Jews have to be strong. And not only that, things happen in our lives, tragedies, God forbid, and a lot of tragedies occur because were Jews and were religious Jews. Not to mention the hatred that comes from the anti-Semitism and this, that, okay. But also there's times when, because a person does the commandments, so sometimes you can lose big time. There's a famous, well-known story. I think I told you the story already about a fellow that he wanted to marry this girl that she was, they were in love, and that she was rich, and she was connected, and he was in the show business, and he had good chances. But all of a sudden, he became religious, and he realized that she's not Jewish, and he can't marry a not Jewish girl. And they broke it off, and it was a tragedy for everybody. In fact, I mean, he broke it off. The story that I know, he broke it off the night of the wedding, and it was a big tragedy for everybody. I know a story, and in the end, it came out okay. I know a story that did not come out okay. I have a very good friend, and he told me a story that there was a fellow that worked for the American government, and he would break codes. Somehow or other, it passed through him, or he saw that the CIA or whatever, they were planning to assassinate someone, a Jewish guy. And he didn't know what to do. If he would tell this fellow they were going to assassinate him, as it would be really bad for him. But on the other hand, maybe that's what he had to do according to the Torah. They're going to kill a Jew. And he went to a rabbi, and the rabbi said, you have to save this fellow's life. You have to save his life. And he went and he told him, the one, he escaped, this guy ran away. They found out it was he that did it. He had to sit in jail for a long time. He got out, he couldn't get a job, and he suffered terribly because he did the truth. So sometimes just to be a Jew, you have to be very strong, and you have to, and not only sometimes, all the time, you have to be strong, you have to be happy, because Judaism demands all the time that you improve every situation that you're in, according to the Torah. And the Torah sets new standards, high standards, that if you didn't have the Torah, you could just be complacent with, just a good, honest life. You didn't have to go and prove everything, improve the whole world. Okay, so therefore Judaism requires strength of character, strength of integrity, not to say bad things, forbidden to say lashon hara, even though it's very tempting to do so. You have to be strong. And we're not talking about being strong in order to go to heaven, or in order to do this, because it's almost not stressed in Judaism at all. You have to be strong to do what's right. Okay, so that's this idea of being strong. We can really get from this week's Torah portion, because it says, first of all, we're finishing this week. We're finishing in a book of the Torah. So we say 3 times, chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek, 3 times. And also because of matot and maseh. What's chozak? What's so strong? The chazak, when we say 3 times, how is it relevant to matot, the first of the 2 Torah portions? Ki mateh, the whole thing of a mateh is a staff. The staff shows on strength, the tokef and power. Bal yeshona, that is not changeable. It's permanent. But dugmas a mateh, just like a staff, kapeshuto, shehu chazak v'kasher, a staff, it's strong and it's hard. Ba'ad until shemata ulashan memshala, the sorora. The mateh is a unit of leadership. Like it says, matot oz al shivte meshulam. Like there's a sentence that says, matot oz. Where is the sentence 9? In Ezekiel. In Ezekiel. It's a sentence in Ezekiel. The word mata itself means to be strong. Let's go. Yeah, here we go. Masha'en can, that's matot. The second portion is called masa'e. Masa'e, the whole thing is walking, going. Mateh shows on something permanent, stable, immovable. That's strength. Masei, the second of the two Torah portions we read, that is implying motion. Vayisa olech v'nosea. Mimakom levon, going from one place to another. She'ena odmed, it doesn't stand in its place. Ela holech v'nosea, it goes and travels to another place. V'ad alicha, it goes to a place which is, he totally leaves the previous place where he was. Ne'akar lagamri, he removes himself from the previous place, makom hakodem, to a place which is ein aroch, which is higher and more holier. This is the opposite of chozek v'tokef ba'ofen bal yeshana. This is seemingly the opposite of staying stable, permanent, firm, powerful in one place. This is an idea, that's matot, is staying immovable. And maseh is to move, but to move to a higher level. Umizesha hachraza, that we say chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek. We say in this week's Torah, at the end, we finish reading, we say, be strong, and strengthen yourself. He is la'olam, this means forever. Means chazak, means to be strong. Even when mata and maseh are joined together. So we say it at the end of, when do we say at the end of Parshas Maseh, the thing about the journeys? This implies, Jatoka the chazak, chazak v'nit chazek, that where we're getting the blessing. We're yelling out, be strong, and strengthen ourselves. This is mainly relevant to this movement. Sometimes they're joined together, it's joined together with matot. Okay, so really the end of this book of Numbers is Maseh, the journeys. That's where we really say chazak, chazak. But we join it together sometimes, like in this year, we join it to the one before it, which is matot. Now matot, that shows on permanent, like a rock standing like a mountain, matot, a staff of permanence, of rulership, right, immovable. And maseh, that seems to show on moving. But says the Rebbe, no, this thing of moving even shows on a higher level of strength. How? Chazaka, then we say the thing is a chazaka, that something happens 3 times. Befrat, and especially when it's a chazak, v'nit chazek, we say, be strong 3 times. It's not just we're doing anything you do 3 times, it's like it's permanent. But here we're saying 3 times, be strong. That's like 3 times saying be permanent. This stretches the chozek v'tokef gam b'makom, even a place where there's someone opposite you. Yadua she mispar echad, the number 1, indicates on a situation where there is melechatchila rak tov v'kedusha, only good and holiness. 1, God is 1. As soon as we get to number 2, this mora al hischalkus machlokas. If you say that there's number 2, we say God is 1, means that there's nothing opposing God. All there is God. That's just God is. If we say there's the number 2, that's sort of not a holy number. Number 2, number 1 is holy. If we say number 2, that's already division. Why? Because it's seeming to imply that there's something other than 1. What about the number 3? The number 3, that shows that somehow or other the number 1, which is God, number 2, which is the creation, something opposite God, and 3 shows that the number 3 we said is a chazaka, right? 3 shows that you can unify the 2 of them, that you can put holiness even in a place where there's an opposition. In other words, God created the world opposes God, there's no doubt about it. But he didn't create the world so that we should run away from the world. He created the world so that we should change the world, unify the world with the creator of the world. In other words, the world is good. We just have to reveal the godliness in the world. That takes a higher power. That's number 3. That's chozak. That's number 3. That's the chazaka. And from this way of the number 3, which we say 3 shows on a new type of strength, there's 2 ways. Number 1, from Mitzad Elyon, that God brings everything together. Hainu, chozuk b'tochav amshachas or kedusha. You draw down holiness in every place, even in a place where there is opposition. Mitzad gadol milas or, because of the tremendous revelation of God, which is infinite, like a big miracle or something. They see a miracle. It was something like that with the 6-Day War, right? After the 6-Day War, so the whole world, all of a sudden, everyone saw it was a miracle. There was absolutely no way to explain it. There's no army that good that they could defeat, 6, 7 armies, whatever it is, in just 6 days. That every single shot found its mark, every single missile destroyed a plane, 2 planes. There's no such thing. There's no army that's that good. Everyone saw clearly that it was a miracle from God, except for the Israelis, of course, but everybody in the world. So that's one way of uniting holiness with the opposite. A big miracle, a big blast of godliness, and then united, everything is united. That's one way of doing it. Another way of uniting godliness and the world is mitzad tachton, from the world itself. Sha'avodah da'alav mitachton, elevating from below to above. This is in a way of chozek b'tokav, that we are strong, levatel menagid, and that we disregard the opposition. The Yeterim is doing opposite, and even more, to transform it to good. But based on finding these two ways of unification from above to below, or from below to above, these are hinted at in chazak of matas mas. The chazak that we say of matot, of the staff, this is strength which comes from God. God spoke to Moses, the Rosh Matot. This is the word that God commanded. HaChozek Patokef, this when God commands, this is a power, this is the staff of Moses, which is the revelation of the Lord. HaChazek, the strength, that's strength from above. But then there's another type of strength, and another type of unity, and another way of eliminating opposition. That opposition should, be surrendered to holiness. Achozek, the Parsha's Masai, that's hinted at Masai. Masai is the power which comes from us. The journeys of the Jewish people. The Jewish people came out of Israel. This is the power of the Jewish people in refining and clarifying the world. Like we just finished saying, the 42 journeys in the desert were to purify the world. Shimorota Shinoim, that despite all the different changes and the different levels that are in each one of these journeys that the Jewish people took, according to the Mamod of Matzov Shalatachton, according to the world, Nimseim Tamid, we are always found in a way of moving, leaving Egypt, getting further from the bad, namely getting further from our false limitations, getting closer to holiness, the land of Israel. The awareness of the Creator. The Al Pizeh, and according to this, we can explain the connection of Chazak to the journeys specifically. Even since the Chozak v'Tokef Makom, since the power and the power of, of change in a place where there's something opposite us, this is stressed more when we're talking about the 42 journeys of the Jews in the desert. Shalozu, not only that right, Parshas Matot is talking about how God talks to Moses and gives the commandments to the Jews. That's power from above. But Masai is talking about the power of the Jews coming from below. This is not only that this powerful, which is in power, which is unlimited, of the light of holiness, which is drawn down into the world without thinking about the world. That's like Matot. But even more, this is drawing godliness by means of working in the world. That's Masai. You work in the world to transform it to holiness. Vashlemus Amit is this true unity of Chazak. This is when you join the two of them together. And the power of Matot means that this is light of God which comes from above, miracles. But when this power is only from God, is Eino Shaykh, it's not so really relevant to the world. Hamanagid. The power of Masa'e, it has the power of Bittul. namely surrender to transform the opposite to good. But because it only comes from us, so therefore we don't have the true inspiration and power from God all the time. Therefore, it's limited to the situation that we're in. We don't live a life of miracles. What's the way out of it? The way out of it is, Shlemus, the true power of the Jewish people is when you join matot and maseh together. That there's these two things. Matot shows on the staff, which comes from above to below, the power given to us by God. Tokef, Hamshach is drawing down light from above. And Hachozek, Tokef, Bebitel, there's also this power of dealing with the opposition and transforming it by elevating from below to above, being an example in the world, being not being intimidated by the world, being a positive influence on the world. Shnei, both of them together, the miracles done by God to inspire us, and also the courage done by us in order to elevate the world, both of them together, this transforms the world in a way that's chazak, v'nit chazek, a permanent way, a chazaka, that the world permanently becomes a vessel for revealing godliness, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. And now let's do the Dvar Malchut, the Yom Yom, which we have to do 2 days. That's right. 2 days we have to do.